It is argued that gay male couples are more open to the idea of open relationships. Do you think gay couples are able to navigate the issues and concerns open relationships may pose?
Fixed question.
What do you think, guys? Are you open to an open relationship?
Well, we're a gay male couple, and overall, we aren't really, are we?
No.
No.
We've been going out like for a few months. I wonder what it would be like if we'd been going out for a few years, or maybe like 15 years or something. But then, but we don't know that because.
Just imagine.
Just imagine.
I don't know. It's a difficult one to answer, but because at the moment we're still focused on finding about one another.
Yeah.
That for that idea to come in, it's not even necessary because we've still got so much to learn about one another.
Yeah.
That it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I don't know if you were to say to begin with, I specifically want an open relationship, would that immediately change a lot of the dynamic as opposed to if it came out of a natural kind of development that after quite a substantial amount of time you both felt comfortable with one another to do it? I don't know. Would it be different if from the off you wanted an open relationship?
Well, that's how we started out, didn't we?
Was it?
Well, we did, didn't we? Do you remember we had that little thing where I went up north and then I came back and I was like, I had a bit of a...
Oh, yeah, with that boy.
That Liverpudlian guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of said straight away, nothing happened, but I came back and it was... I came back with feeling quite... Because we were quite... It was a new relationship, wasn't it? And we'd only been together kind of a few weeks, but it was all new, fresh and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd been up north and kind of... This guy was hitting on me and it was really hot, do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm well up for some of this, but I didn't. And I kind of was plagued with these kind of feelings of guilt just for having the impulse.
Right.
To want to.
And I came back and I was like, we can't start like this, you know what I mean? I want our relationship to be kind of based on freedom and openness, you know what I mean? And an ability not just to have conversations about, where we're at, or if we'd had these impulses, but actually if we'd have got carried away or if it felt right to go with that kind of moments, then to be able to.
Yeah, totally. In life, you have like wonderful things happen and you meet people and you just feel something, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to just follow that energy and see where it goes. It may be for a night or an hour, and be open to that, because it's quite rare you can get that really beautiful spontaneity and that sort of chemistry with someone. And it's a shame when you block that out and you say that can't happen. And I think for us it's a lot of fun, isn't it, really, just knowing that you can have those experiences, and also to come back and be like, be able to talk about them and just share in each other's sort of like joy and experimentation and what happens, and something happens.
We've had fun together as well, and that's when it's been most fun, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Kind of laughing and getting excited about what's happening together. But I guess for me, the whole thing about open relationships is, I guess, breaking free of that kind of... Because I think with monogamy, and I'm not kind of criticising monogamy at all, I think if it works for people, then it's a great kind of setup. And I think if you want to be in that kind of loving, commitment with someone and it works for you, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But I also feel that there are these things that come with monogamy for me and my experience of past relationships where I feel like there's a bit of a tension build up, and I feel like sometimes there's little release for impulses you may have, and just these feelings of feeling quite constrained for me. This is kind of my past experience of it, and I've wondered why I've had to feel that way, and actually why have I had to be in a monogamous relationship, and where does this whole kind of concept of monogamy come from? Because I don't think it's very queer. Do you know what I mean?
It's just assimilationist, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is quite an assimilationist, but I think it's useful to question kind of where it comes from, and I think to then look at the freedom and the expressiveness that can come within an open relationship that is based on trust, good communication, do you know what I mean? Then I think they can be really beautiful things, and I think it can be a great way to live, and I certainly enjoy it anyway. I don't know about you.
Love it.
I think if it works for you, I think that's really great. But I wonder how many relationships have gone into being an open relationship and then fallen apart as well.
Yeah.
Like, I come from quite a traditional background, and my parents, they had me when they were quite old, and they met, when they were sort of in their early 20s, and have been together ever since, and they're now in their, early 70s, and I suppose they passed down to me quite a traditional sense of a relationship, just being quite monogamous and just, and I do believe that, in finding a soulmate, or I don't believe that one person finds necessarily one soulmate and that's it. I think people can find more than one soulmate throughout their life. But I know for me, I just like the idea of it being less complicated, of just being a relationship with one person and then just, seeing how that plays out,
But isn't it interesting, that whole thing about less complicated and that kind of preconception of open relationships about them perhaps being complicated?
Yeah.
And a really good book, kind of, not to advertise, I don't know if I'm supposed to, but there you go. But a really good book is The Ethical Slut, which is kind
good, isn't it, that one?
Is looks really at kind of the feelings and the emotions that kind of, come up when you're in an open relationship and what they're about, because we go through all of that shit, don't we? We have guilt, jealousy, all of those things that you'd expect to feel in a monogamous relationship when you're perhaps looking elsewhere, or perhaps your partner cheats. You know what I mean? We have all those, but the difference is we work through them,
right?
And they're easier to get through, is because we both value our kind of freedom and our ability to kind of explore new and exciting ways of being with other queers.
I couldn't go back to being in a sort of closed, just two people relationship, not open to anything else, any other experiences now.
Right.
I've just got too much love. I want to share it, and I meet loads of people, and I just have a lot of love for them, and that love can transmit itself in different ways, but it might just be about sharing an intimate moment with them, or just, embracing, cuddling with someone, or it might be something else, but, for me, closing those things off and the ideas and that they can happen, and just being purely monogamous is quite scary now.
Right.
And I think I'm just sort of really experiencing this whole wave of openness at the moment, and really kind of, exploring it, and it's really lovely.
What do you think, Jackson?
I don't know. It's interesting that you specifically cite having two parents who represent something very idyllic in terms of what couples are meant to aspire to, which is two heterosexuals who meet kind of early 20s, late teens or whatever, and then are consistently married throughout their lives. Whereas the impression that say I've got from my family is that as people are living older, they'll have two significant marriages. I mean, I value monogamy as well, but it is interesting seeing on a broader spectrum how people are living longer, and as a result, I think it's becoming more obvious that as opposed to having just one marriage, I'm talking about heterosexual couples here, it's more likely that they'll have two significant marriages that they're monogamous in. And then when you look at that in terms of gay men and the amount of time that they've got, and if they're not necessarily going to have kids, I don't know, I think it will naturally kind of change as human behaviour, but overall I would I don't know, I see monogamy as quite a kind of a big goal, the same as you would as well.
Okay.
Just coming back to that question, actually, it was, do you think gay couples are able to navigate the issues and concern open relationships may pose? Mm-hmm. And I think we've kind of answered it in roundabout ways, but kind of just to answer that directly, really, I think that boils down to, doesn't it, how you kind of perceive and treat each other. Mm-hmm. Within open relationships, it's kind of learning to be quite different. So rather than having this kind of subject object kind of orientation. It's about subject to subject, you know what I mean? So always consciously being aware of not just your own feelings and how you are at that present time, but also your partner's being another subject, you know what I mean? Having total empathy for your kind of experience. And that's my take on how we get around stuff, is that actually when shit does come up, say if I slept with someone at the weekend and, you know, I had a good time, you know, I'd make a point of coming home and speaking about it, and then there is usually a bit of like, oh, you know what I mean? But then it's like, and then we you know, it's like, how would we get through it that way? So I think
it seems that you're very sort of mature with it. And
that's more
really
difficult at the beginning.
It's a learning process, yeah, definitely.
Because I was going to say, like, on, say, Gaydar, for example, generally a lot of the open relationships that I've seen on there generally seem to be from an older, sort of, I would say, sort of late 20s onwards into 30s sort of age bracket. I would have thought, and I think it's down to maturity. I think if you can do it and you're mature and you can talk about it and have really good communication, then I can see that it really kind of takes out a lot of the challenges. Whereas I imagine people who are younger, who, you know, their emotions are, then their emotional maturity isn't as tuned, or they're not aware of them so much. I can imagine that it could really destroy relationships, because it would be like a lot of jealousy could come in, or a lot of like, oh, well, you slept with X amount of people last month, or in the last period, and you know, so it seems that you're very in tune with your emotions.
But that's been a process, hasn't it? You know what I mean? It's kind of been a process of being in an open relationship and having some experience in open relationships in the past as well. So I guess, you know, you enrich your experience through having those experiences,
right,
you know, so it's kind of, that's why, you know, I would always kind of recommend, you know, looking at kind of different ways of doing your relationship, because through that you get growth, do you know what I mean? I think that's how we're on, you know, I hope we're on solid footing at the moment.
But
you
know,
know,
very solid.
It does,
it feels like
it?
the best it's ever been, isn't it?
Oh, but that's how we've got. That's how we've got to where we are now, is through learning, and because we've had the opportunity to have it, rather than, you know, thinking, oh, open relation, you know, moralizing it too much and thinking and worrying about it too much. So